What is going on, Eye Warriors? So we got a doozy. It's a study that came out showing that you can possibly spot reduce belly fat. What? Literally, not just the visceral fat that's inside of the body that is usually brown adipose tissue, which is ready to be burned. So stuff like cardio can assist you in burning that. They're talking about the subcutaneous fat, the fat that's right below the epidermis, which is basically the epidermis, your skin, right below the skin, that you can grab the fat that you are actually thinking you want to burn that's in your belly. This study is looking at that and is saying, wait a second, maybe we need to reconsider this spot reduction whole thing, because there might be some spot reduction possibilities here. And this study, just in case anybody wants to go out there and take a look at the study themselves, is called The Effect of an Endurance and Strength Mixed Circuit Training on Regional Fat Thickness, the Quest for the Spot Reduction. So regional fat, basically fat in different parts of the body that you specifically are targeting. So the region of the belly area. All right. And this was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, and this was published in April of 2021. So Antonio Paoli and colleagues were the ones that put this study together. So if we look at the abstract, let's read the abstract real quick. Accumulation of adipose tissue in specific body areas is related to many physiological and hormonal variables. Spot reduction, or SR, as it would be known throughout the entire study from now on, is a training protocol aimed to stimulate lipolysis locally, even though this training protocol has not been extensively studied in recent years. Thus, the present study sought to investigate the effect of circuit training spot reduction on subcutaneous adipose tissue in healthy adults. Methods: 14 volunteers, which is not a big sample size, but this was a randomized human control trial. 14 volunteers were randomly assigned to spot reduction, SR, or to traditional resistance training, which is just RT. Protocol: body composition via bioimpedance analysis and subcutaneous adipose tissue via skin fold and ultrasound were measured before and after 8 weeks of training. Now, this is really good in terms of data that they're collecting, because they're not just relying on the bioimpedance analysis. They're not just relying on the skin fold. They're not just relying on the ultrasound. They're relying on all of those together. So that's going to give them a more accurate reading. I think the skin fold one is probably the best one of all of these. The ultrasound is also really helpful, but it's cool to see that they're using all of these different metrics to see if it works. And look what they say here. Results: spot reduction significantly reduced body mass with a p-value of 0.05. Remember that I told you, for something to be statistically significant within these studies, the p-value has to be 0.05 or below. And it hit right on the money at 0.05. And subcutaneous abdominal adipose tissue also hit at a statistical significant number, p-value of 0.05, which gave them the conclusion that circuit training spot reduction may be an efficient strategy to reduce in a localized manner abdominal subcutaneous fat tissue depot. Okay, or depot. All right. So here we go. They randomized a study by ethical committee. They had them sign everything. 18 volunteers, 9 males and 9 females, aged between 20 to 46 years old. And this is what they put them through. If we look at this here. So this was the resistance training only, and this was the spot reduction people, the intervention group versus the control group. And this is what they saw, what they did. A bunch of crunches, like crazy amount of crunches to see if they could actually spot reduce, while they only did crunches this one time over here. Now, here's an interesting thing. It feels to me that this is a much more intensive workout than this here. I mean, this looks much more intensive. They're doing all of the different things that they're doing here. They're doing the treadmill, the bike, and everything, and they're doing it for the same kind of amount of time, but they are doing more stuff. So in my opinion, this study doesn't necessarily show you that spot reduction is possible. This study shows to me that there was more intense workouts happening with the spot reduction group. Therefore, the spot reduction group ended up losing more overall fat, because it is still consistent with the data that came out of the results of the study. Because when looking at the data, not only did they lose more body fat or belly fat, they lost more body fat overall. So my consensus or my takeaway from this study is that they just had to work much harder than the other group. I feel like they should have created a replacement workout for the other group that could replace all these different workouts that the spot reduction group had to do. So when looking at the study, just looking at that bite-sized table right here, you can see that there is already some issues there, but you can see that the differences in terms of this is the spot reduction group, this is the resistance training group, and you can see that they lost more body fat and body mass, and BMI went down for them overall, not just in the belly, but overall. But of course, the belly was one of the areas where they lost fat. Now, the only limitation that they stated here was that the present study was the reduced number of participants. Of course, the smaller the sample size, the there's less variables that you can take from it. So like, it's harder for you to understand if this could apply to the general public. But I find it to be interesting that that's the only thing that they decided is a limitation, and not the fact that they had to work out much harder than the resistance training group. So in conclusion, spot reduction training conducted in a mixed circuit training format, triceps and abdominal inside and endurance training, seems to be efficient in promoting adipose tissue reduction in the subcutaneous abdominal region, but was not efficient on the triceps site. So it looks like you couldn't spot reduce the arm, but you were able to spot reduce the belly. All of this just tells me, because this is muscle tissue, regional muscle tissue that's located adjacent to these other areas that carry body fat, right? Like your arms, like your biceps and triceps, they carry body fat as well. So if the regional muscle group that's closest to your belly is creating some type of an effect where your belly fat is reducing, then why is that not the same thing within the same biology of the participants happening in the arms as well, or the tricep? Why is that not being seen? It appears to me, just based off of this information, that they just lost weight. They just lost overall weight, and belly fat was one of the things that they lost when you compare it to a group that was doing less physical activity, essentially, or less exercise activity, less exercise activity thermogenesis than the intervention group, which was the spot reduction group. That is my takeaway from this study. Just in case the study ever comes up and everybody's like, hey, wait a second, Fledge Fitness, there's a study that says you could spot reduce because they told you gotta read the fine details in these studies. You always gotta do that. Anyways, until tomorrow, hopefully this video was helpful for you, because that's my goal. My goal is to make these things helpful, make these things super understandable, and make you want to come back tomorrow to continue to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button that I'm really positively sure you've already done for this video, because you guys love it. I know you did already. So I'm just going to ask you to do it tomorrow. And we'll see you tomorrow where you're gonna do that, like and subscribe and share. That's a bonus thing that you guys can do. All right, see you guys. Peace out.